Hello students, I welcome you all to the second day of a science camp at my tutorials, and the subject that we are going to deal with today is biology. Now see students, biology is a subject where understanding the concepts is far more important as well. Biology, that is study of living organisms. It is a subject where you break about the important terms, the difficult terms, and you understand its meanings. So the topic that we're going to do today is somewhat close to that. More importantly, it is a topic that students often don't find it very interesting, but I am sure that in today's lecture, I will put a lot of questions in your mind and make you understand that the topic is actually very interesting and also very important. So starting with our topic, Jeev Jantu Janardhan is going to be our headline. Very simple, we are going to learn about living organisms and how science and technology has helped us through. So बायोटेक्नोलॉजी, एज आई सेड, बायोलॉजी एक ऐसा सब्जेक्ट है जहां पर आप वर्ड्स को ब्रेक करो एंड यू विल अंडरस्टैंड अबाउट देयर मीनिंग्स. So biotechnology, how we use technology for living organisms. Now we all know that our body is made up of cell. We say that our basic unit of life is cell. Talking about cells, right? There are many types of cells in our body which you have already learnt about. But there are some cells which have special abilities. One particular cell called as the totipotent cell. Again, totipotent. Break it down to two. Totipotent. Toti stands for total and potent, which means potency, which means ability. So these totipotent cells have the capacity or they have the ability to form any other cell type. Now, when I say this, any other cell type, you obviously have a question. कि sir, ये हमारे body में exactly कहाँ मिलेंगे? Which are the examples of these types of cells? I'm sure you must have heard about stem cells. So the stem cells that we talk about are these totipotent cells. Basically, if given a proper environment, they can give rise to any cell type of your body. What exactly is the use of this totipotent cells? Let's try and understand. Now, using this totipotent cell, if a proper environment is given, a new organism can grow out of these cells. Now, what do you mean by proper environment? Now, see students, you must have learned this about in the 8th chapter for our first semester, that is useful and harmful microbes. Proper एनवायरमेंट फॉर अ सेल टू ग्रो, हमारे बॉडी में जो भी चीज है उसे मिलती है, वो एनवायरमेंट हमें लेबोरेटरी में बनाना है. टू पुट इट इन सिंपल टर्म्स, अ न्यूट्रिएंट रिच मीडियम. बेसिकली सेल्स को ग्रो करना है तो न्यूट्रिशन उतना ही इंपॉर्टेंट है. सेकेंड एंड द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग इज अ प्रॉपर टेम्परेचर विच दे कैन ग्रो इन. जैसे हमारा बॉडी 37 डिग्री सेल्सियस कांस्टेंट. So here as well you will have to provide in the laboratory a particular temperature where the cells can comfortably grow. And third and the most important thing is keep it properly sanitized. That is, no other microorganism, be it useful or harmful, should infect this cell. So it was realized कि सेल का यही प्रॉपर्टी यूज करके जो जेनेटिकली कंट्रोल किया जा सकता है बाय गिविंग देम स्पेसिफिक केमिकल्स एंड द सेल डिवाइड्स टू फॉर्म आवर required cell type. We can use this totipotent cell and therefore produce higher yielding varieties of crops. Now, what do you mean by higher yielding? Very simple. For example, take your class. Okay, class में उतने एरिया में if I say that a normal farmer using a normal crop can grow 10 kgs of rice, तो ये हायर यील्डिंग वैरायटीज को हम यूज करके ग्रो कर सकते हैं इन दैट सेम एरिया 15 kgs of rice. So basically limited area but more crop production. Similarly, new species of animals can also be produced. Now, talking about new species, you must have heard about a term called liger, which is a cross or which is a hybrid of lion and a tiger. So this is obviously not found in nature, but we have made it possible using biotechnology. And many vaccines can also be produced. Now, vaccines is a term which is in the news for a lot of time now. Everybody is well awaited for the vaccine of COVID-19. So वैक्सीन प्रोडक्शन के लिए भी हमें एक important चीज है, that is biotechnology, which is going to help. So taking all these things into consideration, a new branch of biology called as biotechnology came to rise. Now talking about biotechnology, ये technique use करके it has become possible for us to give new characteristics to the organisms which are already present in our nature. To give a very simple example, all of you must have been to a restaurant. Let it be in a restaurant. All of you must have been to Domino's. All of you must have been eating this pizza with those small tomatoes. These small tomatoes are none other than cherry tomatoes. Now, obviously, it is not something that was found in nature beforehand. It is something that we have produced. We gave the characteristic to the tomato to be of the smaller size. So cherry tomatoes is the classic example where we have used biotechnology and therefore produced new characteristic in the already existing plant. So the technique of bringing about improvements in living organisms by either changing their genes artificially, that is we do it, and by hybridization. Hybridization का मतलब क्या? That is taking characteristics from two different organisms and putting it into one. Simple example, cherry tomatoes. The name itself gives it away. The size taken from the cherries and the fruit taken from the tomatoes, therefore giving us cherry tomato. That is hybridization from two different organisms into one. But all of this done for one simple thing, human welfare. Okay. So biotechnology का major use जो हुआ है, that has been majorly for our welfare. Now it includes the techniques of first genetic engineering. Genes do not look this way. You cannot hold it in your hand. It is just a pictorial representation. But yes, genetic engineering is basically you tweaking or twitching with your genes. Okay, genes to be precise, हमारे हर सेल में क्रोमोसोम्स है, क्रोमोसोम के अंदर डीएनए और डीएनए के छोटे छोटे सेगमेंट्स को हम बोलते हैं जीन्स. सो इफ यू change these genes, your characteristics will be different. Similarly, tissue culture. Now when we talk about tissue culture, a small concept to be given to you. जैसे हमने environment में बात किया, that one cell given a proper environment can give rise to a new organism. Tissue culture is somewhat very similar. You take a laboratory equipment, say a test tube or a Petri plate, you give it a nutrient-rich medium, you give the cell, and you allow it to grow. So basically, using the tissue culture technique, you are developing a new plant or a new organism. Now here, when we talk about these techniques, सबसे पहली चीज जहां पर ये utilize होता है is the cash crops. Now when we talk about cash crops, ऐसे प्लांट्स नहीं जिसपे पैसे उगते, नो. कैश क्रॉप्स ऐसे क्रॉप्स हैं जो ऑन अ डेली बेसिस हम यूटिलाइज करते हैं. आई एम श्योर मोस्ट ऑफ यू एवरी डे माइट ईदर हैव राइस और रोटी. सो व्हीट एंड राइस, both of these become cash crops because they are used on a daily basis, at least once a day. Similarly, improvement in the varieties of cash crops. As I said, high yielding varieties होनी चाहिए. उतने ही एरिया में हम ज्यादा क्रॉप्स ग्रो कर पाए is the possibility because of biotechnology. Apart from this, We also give the plants ability to withstand these environmental stresses. Talking about the last few days, where in the month of December, there are some drizzles and showers. So obviously, for a normal crop to withstand this, it is going to be very difficult. But these plants that are grown with the help of biotechnology, it is going to be far more easier for them to withstand these environmental stresses. Similarly, vaccine production, as I've already told you, that biotechnology plays a major role for production of vaccines. Also, early diagnosis of a congenital disease. Basically, even when the baby is not even born, that is when it is in the mother's womb, at that time we can find out if the baby is going to suffer from a disease or a disorder before birth. So obviously that is a huge progress in the field of science. Taking an example, a very simple example of Down syndrome, everybody must know about it. If you look at people with Down syndrome, their foreheads are a little bigger, their tongue is protruding out, and their fingers are small. With the look of it, you can make out that it is a disorder. So even before the baby is born, you can understand or you can come to know if the baby is suffering from it or not. So obviously that is a very huge progress. Similarly, organ transplant. See, it is not as easy as taking or lending somebody some money or taking some vegetables from a person. Organ transplant requires a lot of research before being done, or else the transplant that was done to save your life can be the cause of your death. Starting with basic blood groups. If the two people, the organ donor and the organ receiver, do not have the same blood group, it is going to be of no use. You will learn more about this in detail in the chapters in 10th standard. But for now, this is the basic that you have to understand, that an organ donor and the organ recipient both have to have some similar characteristics on their organs in their blood so as to make the organ transplant successful. Next, cancer research, again something that is very, very important. Many people are trying to find some medication, some method to cure cancer, and biotechnology is going to show them the way. Production of artificial skin cartilage in the laboratories. As I told you already, that giving the proper environment, giving the proper chemical stimulus to an organism or to a cell per se in a proper environment, you can produce any other cell type using the totipotent cell. Now we come to biotechnology and agriculture. That is how we use biotechnology in the field of agriculture. Going ahead, there are some changes in the agricultural management with the help of biotechnology. The first and the most important thing, genetically modified crops, also called as GM crops. I am sure all of you must have heard about it somewhere, but you are not very well aware about the concept behind it. So these genetically modified crops are being produced by introducing the changes directly into their DNA. That is, at the gene level, there are some changes that are done so that these changes can be seen directly into the fully grown crops. As I've already given you an example about the cherry tomatoes. How did we do it? We went into the DNA and we changed the gene for the size of tomato. So it is majorly doing certain changes at the gene level, therefore the name genetically modified crops. Now when we talk about these genetically modified crops, obviously they are not going to be found in nature. It is not a possibility that cherry tomatoes were present in the forest for years now and we went there accidentally and found them. It is something that we have created ourselves for our benefit. So these varieties are not found in nature. But by producing them artificially, Many useful characteristics can be introduced into them. Now, putting these useful characteristics for whom? For us, by either increasing their nutritive value or increasing their visual pleasing. Now, their ability to withstand these environmental stress. If you people remember, 2020 has not been a very good year from the start. January, February, there were some showers of rains because of which mango plantations were destroyed. If those plants were genetically modified, the changing temperature, the changing climate, the wet and dry famines would not have affected the plant, would not have affected the produce of the plant in that much excess. But obviously, these genetically modified crops help us with the changing climate and temperature because their produce is somewhat always constant. So GM crops can grow in any such adverse condition, and that is why we are going towards GM crops more than the ones that are naturally found in our environment. Along with this, as GM crops are resistant to insects and pests. See, this is one thing which we have always feared about, that our crops getting destroyed by the insects, by the pests, and not leaving that much amount for us. So what we did was, on the genetic level in plants itself, we made them pest resistant and insect resistant. So we have two benefits from it. Number one, the pesticides and insecticides which could be harmful for us, we have reduced the use, we almost avoid it. And number two, without their use also, our crops are doing just good. They are not getting infected by the insects or the pests or any other pathogen. So due to the use of seeds of GM crops, nutritive value has improved, as I already said, and also the decrease in the loss of crops has become possible. जो environmental stresses के वजह से loss of crops हो रहा था, because of these GM crops, it has now reduced a lot. Now, as a seed of better quality of crop is being produced, even if you were a farmer, I was a farmer, I would prefer going for GM crop seed. Why? Because two things. Number one, it reduces the cost of insecticides and pesticides. Number two, in the smaller area, it is going to give me more produce and constant produce every year. So obviously, it is a win-win situation for me. Therefore, the area under its cultivation is increasing day by day, and also the population that is increasing to feed that many amount of people is possible because of these GM crops. I know you must have a question here कि सर अगर ये GM crops ज्यादा हो गए तो disadvantages तो होंगे. See students, you are correct. We are going against the nature. We are doing something that is not completely natural, but it is something that is the need of the hour. If we are not capable of producing the food according to our population, people might die. So that is why we use GM crops to feed these many people, and obviously it is for our benefit, it is for our welfare. And there is nothing wrong because we are doing things to prevent those natural plants as well. High yielding varieties, as I've already told you, there are many crops जो GM crops के अंडर आते हैं. For example, bananas, maize, something that is very, very commonly eaten during the rains, rice. हमारा पूरा coastal region depends majorly on rice. Potatoes, again something that is eaten on a large scale. Soybean, again used for their protein content. Tomatoes, used in salads. Cotton, used for textiles. Apple, again very, very beneficial for our health. Brinjal, although not many people like it, it is something that is very important. Papaya, beetroot, rose. Now I want to focus more on this because many of you must have been to Dadar flower market and you must have seen that these vendors, flower vendors, have bunch of rose which look exactly similar with those long stems without thorns. Do you think these are naturally being produced? Obviously not. ये जो रोज flowers बनते हैं, these are specifically made to be sold as ornamental plants, basically for looking good. So these roses that are produced on a large scale on a daily basis are the product of these GM crops. Similarly, tobacco, wheat, etc., all of these are available in under the GM crops. Going ahead, pest resistant genes. Now we come to the concept, the very interesting one, कि ये plants pest resistant कैसे हुए sir? So first let us look at the examples कि कौन से ऐसे plants हैं जो pest resistant हम अभी तक बना पाए हैं. Maize, there are two varieties, MON 810 and MON 863. Similarly for potato, there is Amflora. Then for rice, there is golden rice. Soybean is Vistiv Gold. Tomatoes is Vaishali. And for cotton, it is BT cotton. Now bringing you to the concept. See, there is a small part of 10th standard that I will be taking to focus more on the concept. So talking about BT cotton. Now the BT here stands for the organism, rather the bacteria from which we take the gene for toxin. So a gene has been isolated from the bacteria called as Bacillus thuringiensis. So what we basically do is we take the DNA of bacteria, we take that specific gene that is responsible for production of toxins. Once that gene is isolated, we integrate it, that is we insert it into our plant's gene. Okay, we replace the toxin gene with our normal plant gene. And because of this change, if you look at the diagram, because of the toxin gene being inserted into our cotton plant, now cotton plant is also going to be able to produce this toxin on the leaves and bolls of cotton. Because of this, what happens? If the bollworm, which is a pest for our cotton plant, feeds on the leaves or the cotton bolls, the alimentary canal overall of the bollworm is going to get destroyed and therefore our plant got saved. So put it into simple terms. Okay, it is the law of nature. Consider you have gone to a party, somebody is eating food and fell sick right there. Will you be able to eat the same food then? Obviously not. This is how nature works as well. If the other bollworms see that one bollworm has died because of consuming the plant, it is obvious that they are also not going to consume. And that is how our entire plantation is safe from pest infestation. Now we come to agri-tourism. Now students, this is something that is very exciting. Why? I'll tell you. All of you, most of you I'm sure must have gone to one of the two places that I'm going to say. Number one is Mapro Gardens at Mahabaleshwar. Number two is Sula Vineyards at Nashik. Now both of these places, although they are for leisure, but they come under the term agri-tourism. What is agri-tourism? Basically, if you have sufficient amount of land, agri-tourism is a good business. To put it in simple terms, to give you a better example and insight into it, a strawberry box containing 35 to 40 strawberries, we can get easily for 100 rupees. Now, Mapro Gardens, okay, they produce it on a very, very, very large scale. Obviously, they produce more. Okay, from 100 rupees of produce, they will get at least 50 strawberries. But the same thing in their own restaurant, if you go for a strawberry milkshake, they give it for at least 200 to 250 rupees. Using 10 strawberries hardly, which is 20 rupees, 30 rupees maximum, 20 rupees of cream, 20 rupees of milk. So the drink is actually worth 70 to 80 rupees only, but they sell it for 250 rupees. So that is how agri-tourism now, as a name in business, is something that is going to fetch you much more profit. So agri-tourism focuses more on growing plantlets of flowering plants. If you go through a place, if you go through a garden per se, you will want to see colorful flowers around you to make yourself feel a little fresher. Similarly, medicinal plants can be used. Now, with the forests being cut down, our medicinal plants were found in the wild. But उनका नंबर कम होने के वजह से now we have to produce it on ourselves. So these medicinal plants can be used in your own small agri-tourism center and then can be sold for the health benefits. Ornamental plants, basically grown only and only for looking pretty, for looking beautiful, for making the area look really nice. आपने बहुत सारे बॉलीवुड मूवीज में भी ये चीज देखी होगी that they shoot songs at such places which is very very colorful, full of flowers. So that is very pleasing to look at. Similarly, if you are going through a garden, if you're going through a park and the entire way that you are walking has many flowers around you, obviously it is something that you are going to enjoy. Also, growing vegetables and fruits in your own agri-tourism center and then selling it to the people who come, again something that is very fruitful, again something that is going to fetch you profit. So all of these can be produced on a large scale using our tissue culture techniques. So by growing some of these plants fully, a self-sufficient agri-tourism center can be developed. So you have to invest some years. Once these plants are fully grown, they are constantly going to give you all the byproducts that they give. And then the center, the agri-tourism center, is going to become self-sufficient. Now, which fruits are beneficial? Mango obviously goes without saying. Then you have chiku. I am not very sure, but most of you will have visited the Tikujini Wadi as well. So that is an agri-tourism center for chiku. It is basically an entire chiku plantation in which they have started an amusement park and a water park, obviously fetching them more money. Similarly, guava, any fruit, any vegetable that is in a lot of demand can be used in the agri-tourism center. Coconut. We have heard about the benefits of coconut for a long time now. Custard apple, again something that is liked by many people. Along with that, we can produce these shade-giving, local or exotic attractive plants. Majorly, if you look at in the metropolitan cities, plants like these, which have a width of say 15 to 20 meters, are not very commonly found. But if you go to your native places, where there used to be a Gram Panchayat meeting or something like that, you will see that there are plants with 30 meters of diameter of their entire shade, which can easily hold or give shade to 10 to 15 people at once. So obviously such plants in your gardens is going to be much more attractive. Ornamental and flowering plants, as I said, very easy or very soothing to look at them. So many colors, so many different flowers at once. An emerging concept, a butterfly garden. Many gardens have now started making these areas specifically for such butterflies to feed on the flowers. Now, what is the use of these butterflies? We often do not consider them as an important part of our ecosystem or an important part of our environment. But butterflies and honeybees both play a very major role for reproduction in plants. They help in pollination between two different flowers. So basically self and cross pollination is a major occurrence because of one of these honeybees or butterflies. Similarly, medicinal plant gardens. So at the end or at the exit of your center, you can either keep these plantlets or you can keep their products for health considered people. and organic fruits and vegetables, as I've already told you, that people nowadays focus more on how naturally a food is produced, how organic way you can produce rather than using certain chemicals. So organic food products are more in the news and are more popular in people because they think it is far more healthy, it is far more nutritive, which it is. So obviously all of these factors come and give you or fetch you a lot of money under agri-tourism. Now we'll be starting with biotechnology and humans, that is talking about us now. So going ahead, now we've already understood what biotechnology means. It is basically bringing artificial genetic changes and hybridization in organisms, but for human welfare. See students, one constant thing that you have to understand, बायोटेक्नोलॉजी एक ऐसा ब्रांच है बायोलॉजी का जो हमने हमारे बेनिफिट के लिए ज्यादा यूज किया है. So there are many branches of science like the cytology, biochemistry, molecular biology, genetic engineering. All of this come under one branch called biotechnology. Now we have already seen that we have made certain progress. We have made a considerable progress mainly in the field of agriculture. हमने एग्रीकल्चर में देखा कि हमने बहुत सारे एक्सपेरिमेंट्स किए टू फाइंड आउट और टू make improved varieties of crops with respect to higher yields. Similarly, there are many experiments that we've done in pharmacy as well. So there are some experiments done for the production of antibodies. Antibodies क्या होते हैं? So these are immune cells of your body जो आपका बॉडी आपको हेल्प करने के लिए बनाता है against an infection. Okay, so if there is an infection in your body is going to produce these cells and therefore fight against it. Similarly, vitamins. See students, as much as it is important to have your normal diet, it is also important to have sufficient amount of vitamins every day. You must have heard about these supplements, multivitamin tablets. What is their use? मल्टीविटामिन टैबलेट्स का सबसे ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट यूज ये है कि ये हमारे बॉडी में न्यूट्रिशन अब्सॉर्ब करने के लिए ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है. So unless and until there is a balance of your multivitamins in the body and your nutrition, you are not going to get 100% out of it. So जितना आपका नॉर्मल खाना इंपॉर्टेंट है उतना ही आपके विटामिन्स भी इंपॉर्टेंट है. Then there is a hormone called insulin which is produced with the help of biotechnology. Now talking about human health. जब हम human health management की बात करते हैं तो there are two most important aspects. Number one is to diagnose a disease and number two find a treatment for that particular disease. ये दोनों चीजों को मिलकर ही हम human health management के बारे में हम बात कर सकते हैं. So biotechnology here as well plays a very major role. Why? Because there are many medicines that are produced for treatment of many diseases with the help of biotechnology. Not just that, the most important hormone called insulin is used in the treatment of diabetes. I am sure that from all the people who are watching this video, you must know at least one person who has diabetes. Now see students, 20-30 years before, insulin hormone was not easily available, was not readily available because हम तभी बायोटेक्नोलॉजी यूज करके प्रोड्यूस नहीं कर रहे थे. In the initial times, insulin was collected from the pancreas of horse. So obviously, production was less, demand was more, automatically the prices were high. क्योंकि supply उतना ज़्यादा है ही नहीं. But now, we use biotechnology. What we do is, we take the gene producing insulin. Okay, हमारे बॉडी में हमारे सेल में जो जीन है which is responsible for production of insulin hormone, we take that from our body, our cell, and we introduce into the bacteria. जैसे हमने बीटी कॉटन में देखा, हमने जीन लिया बैसिलस thuringiensis से और इंट्रोड्यूस किया प्लांट में. यहाँ पर हमने उल्टा किया, हमने हमसे एक इंसुलिन जीन लिया और उसको बैक्टीरिया के डीएनए में इंसर्ट किया. So what is going to happen? Now the bacteria is going to produce insulin, and because of this, insulin large scale produce hone laga. Therefore, it is easily available in the market now, and therefore the cost has gone considerably down. For a strip of 10 tablets for insulin, you get it easily for 30 rupees now, 3 rupees per tablet. Okay. Initially, for one shot of insulin, you had to pay 150, 160 rupees. That too on a daily basis or at least twice a week. And now you have 10 tablets which you can take alternate days, which you can take daily twice, and therefore get better results from the tablets. Similarly, there are various vaccines and antibiotics which are also produced in the same way using biotechnology. So students, I hope you liked the entire lecture. I hope there were things that you are still interested about to know, and there might be many questions that must have arisen through the topic. So that is all. Thank you so much. This is Jaivansh, and hopefully we'll meet next time.